Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are here to talk about the business of being an author, marketing, publishing, and everything in between. We do accept live questions as well as email questions, and we've got a little bit of both today, so we will jump right in. First question we have is from Pat. In writing query letters for my picture books, I would like your opinion on how to start the letter. Do you begin with the hook pitch, or do you begin with how you find or discovered the agent or editor? This is a good question. It depends on your flow and how it flows. Sometimes I've seen it done very well where there's a hook sentence. So, of course, on the spot, my brain just dies on me. But you might have a hook sentence like, what if we found out we weren't the only ones on the planet? Hi, my name's Keri Barnum. I found you because of this, this, and this. We make our connection sentence, and then we go, my new book, which is blah, blah, blah. So you can have a hook, a introduction, and then you can lead into the rest of your pitch. And that sometimes can work because it gets people's attention very quickly. And I would say that works well a lot of times, especially if you don't have a connection to the agent or editor. However, if you have a connection to the agent or editor, I always start with that. Um, Hi, I met you at the IBPA conference and you asked me to send you a pitch or something like that. So that way you are immediately telling them you know me. And also keep in mind, almost every publisher or agent I know, at least if it's going through something like Query Tracker, they have someone who is looking through their pitches initially. They have a intern, they have a junior agent, they have someone who is looking through those pitches and earmarking some for the agent to look at or the editor to look at, and then kind of saying no to others. Now, the agent may have given them criteria, like I'm only accepting sci-fi right now. I don't want any horror romantasy or different things like that. So by immediately saying, I met you here and you asked for my pitch or you encouraged me to send a pitch, it lets that person who is the person who is like vetting the pitches know, oh, this is a personal connection. I should pass it on, even if it doesn't meet the criteria that we talked about. So I think that's important to note as well, is because that happens a lot. Not as much through email, although I know plenty of agents who have someone helping them through email. But definitely on places like Query Tracker, I see this all the time where there's someone else. And I have in fact seen funny story. And I won't give away the details because it would be too telling, but I was at a conference with a couple of agents and an author. And through that author posting about the conference on their social medias, their niece was like, "Oh my gosh, you're in town," because that author was out of town, from somewhere else. And the author's niece was like, "Oh my gosh, you're in town. I'm in town from a completely different state too. I would love to have breakfast with you." So the niece and the author went to have breakfast, happened to a couple of agents and I happened to see them later on in the day together and we were chatting. Comes out that this niece had sent in a pitch to the agent, and it was the author's agent had sent in a pitch but hadn't mentioned the connection. And because it was through Query Tracker, an intern, something like that, was like, nope, this is not what we're looking for. And so the agent had never gotten that pitch. Meanwhile, the niece was like, well, I don't want to use that connection too hard. I don't want to follow up or ask my uncle to follow up. So like they were trying to be respectful and the other person just didn't get it. So this absolutely happens. If there is some connection or someone has told you to send in a pitch or I know you because put it in that intro. It really does matter sometimes. And I don't think we realize how much, but I mean, I get it all the time too. People will say, got your name from so and so. And even if I'm busy, I'll pop in and I'll look and see what it is because sometimes I can help them, sometimes I can't. But because I know they were kind of vetted by someone I know, or it was a recommendation. I try to look those up. So for what that's worth, that's what I would be doing. Let me see some questions we got. Got a question from Jane here, and it's what do you think about Amazon's change in bestseller rank, and do you usually affect authors? This is a really good question. So, for those of you who don't know, Amazon very quietly changed their bestseller ranking in the way that it works. Previously, Amazon was updating their bestseller ranking for categories by the hour. They recently, I believe, and very quietly just changed this out to where now on the actual page, when it talks about ranking and sales on the Amazon help section, it now says it will be updated at least once a day, but it may take 2 to 3 days to show up. So authors who maybe have a big launch and they had a lot of pre-orders and they're looking for like a bestseller ranking to show up on their book. Hopefully they want that orange banner and they're not seeing it until 2 or 3 days later. It is absolutely changing that ranking. Also, part of what they're saying is that your ranking is dependent on what other books are doing at that moment in time. If there's more sales and activity on other books, it increases their ranking and decreases yours. This has always been the case. It's always been relative to other books in the marketplace. But going from a hourly ranking to updating at least once a day. So they could still be updating hourly. They could still update every couple of hours, but now the official rules state at least once a day. And so this absolutely changes the system, and I will tell you why. And I'll tell you why I think it's both good and bad. This changes the system because for a long time, we have talked about optimizing categories and how that can affect your ranking. There's a lot of people who really covet that orange number one bestseller in a category. We've even talked about how people will sometimes cheat the system, go into really small, not necessarily correct categories for their book, and they just care about being called a bestseller. There are whole marketing programs that are based around bestseller programs, meaning they guarantee that you'll get a bestseller badge and you can grab that screenshot and you pay whatever it is for the privilege. A lot of times it's anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000 for this. And so what they were doing is they were getting your book into really niche categories, doing a discount promotion, sending it out and driving those sales. Or they had a list of people who would very often buy discount books and they would drive it all in the same hour and try to get those sales really quickly to get you that bestseller ranking. It feels good. It feels good to be a bestseller, but it doesn't necessarily mean your book is selling. It doesn't mean that your book has longevity or life or legs. It simply means that people manipulated the system into getting a bestseller ranking. Now, sometimes you're in really hard categories and you're using an ebook promo to get a bestseller. I have seen I've seen USA Today campaigns happen this way, and that takes a lot of sales. I'm not dismissing the fact that it is special, that it's fun, that it's important, and that it feels good, and you can then call yourself a bestseller. But people have taken the manipulation of the system to the extreme, and they're trying to monetize it. A lot of companies and marketing programs have really done this. Authors certainly use it as well. They like to be able to say they're a bestseller, but really, really, it's the companies who are doing it. I get asked all the time if I run bestseller campaigns, and the answer is no, I don't. And I don't because it doesn't necessarily mean long-term sales because I can't guarantee it unless I'm going to, pay people to buy your book. And a lot of these programs do. Buy this book and we'll give you a $5 gift card or something like that. So buy this 99-cent book and we send you $5 essentially. Um, that to me is not number one ethical, but also it doesn't really carry a book. It doesn't make a successful book or a successful author. It makes a feel good moment. And not against those. I do ebook promotions all the time. I like to optimize categories, but it doesn't necessarily help you long term. So in that way, I don't think it's bad. I think that it will kind of get rid of some of the programs that are preying on authors in that way. I also think in some ways it will make a bestseller badge or status mean a little bit more than it has in the last couple of years. But what it's also doing, and this has always been true, Amazon prioritizes for ranking for algorithms, they prioritize long-term sales over short-term spikes. So Amazon would much rather see a book that sells a book a day for 30 days than a book that sells 100 copies in one day and then just drops back down to nothing, because that tells them, it tells their algorithms they did some type of promotion. This book isn't really popular. And that affects the life of your book. It affects how marketable it is long term. It affects how your ads run. It affects your natural and organic algorithms. So while these promotions, these big pushes aren't bad, if there's not steady sales before, after, or building towards that, then it really doesn't help you at all. And it can't even hurt your algorithms. So, this change, I believe, is a bigger push towards that, towards long term sales, towards working towards. I've said it before. Yeah, you can run a promo and get 100 sales right off the bat, and it feels really good. You have a bestseller, and then your book can never sell again. I kid you not when I've seen this. I've seen people in these bestseller programs, and I have seen where they get 100 sales right out the gate one day, and then not another sale for 3 years because the book wasn't set up for success. And so the focus being on, we want categories that actually fit our book that will help maintain organic reach and hopefully that we can rank well in. Because, yes, when you rank in a category long term, it does help you with your algorithms and your sales. We want to see books that are consistently being marketed so that they have a sale every day that can build to 2 sales a day. I had an author not too long ago who told me they didn't feel really good about their book sales. And I was like, well, let's take a look at it. This book has sold 3 to 4 copies almost every single day for 2 years. That's better than the majority of books out there. And it's increasing sales year over year, meaning that its potential is getting better over time. Remember, the life of a book is typically about 10 years. Year one is our building year. Yes, it's our launch. It feels good. We might hit bestseller status, but year one is like our building year. Book year 2 and 3 are our sales year. That's usually where a book earns most of its income. And depending on what you're doing to keep it alive, if it's a series, different things like that, it can have a longer tail and continue selling for generally up to 10 years. It does depend on if the content goes out of date or if content goes out of date. The genre is just not that hot. It depends on if you're marketing or not, and so many different things. But so Amazon has changed these algorithms. They have changed them, they've updated them, and they'll continue to do so. That's not the only thing Amazon's been changing lately. It's just one of the things, but we've noticed it because a lot of authors track their bestseller ranking. And so we've noticed this quickly. It means that if you have a promotion, you probably need to watch your sales ranking for like 3 or 4 days, not just on the day of a promo. It means that your ranking over time, if you've really got great metadata, keywords, categories that fit your book and you're consistently getting sales, it means your ranking may be better overall and consistently. Do I think it will hurt author sales? I don't, because I also know that an orange bestseller sticker might sell a book for a day, but it doesn't sell a book long term. So it doesn't feel good necessarily. I think some people will be disappointed in that, but do I think it will hurt book sales long term or hurt authors who have a firm foundation in marketing in their books. I really don't think it will. I'll be watching it along with everyone else. So I will be watching that, and I'll certainly let you know what I find or see or what I hear in author groups. But it's not something I'm personally worried about. In fact, I am seeing my books that are very grounded, that have great categories that truly fit the book, keywords that really fit the book. I'm seeing those books actually do better, not worse. So that's where I'm at with it. I'll keep you updated as I learn more, hear more, or if anything changes. It would not be the first time that I ate my words. So, that could happen. More on Amazon because they are also changing other things. One of the things that they've just added is in the uh, ad dashboard and Amazon advertising. They have just added a AI generator for video for ads. So if you are running an ad through Amazon, you can do a sponsored brand ad now. That's a video. You can do for a whole page, author page, or you can do for one product. And when you do it, they are creating AI videos using your book cover, using if you have A+ content, they're using A+ content, your book cover. It uses two, they call it assets. So it uses two assets. If it's your paperback, they immediately go for your front and back cover. Although you can replace those with other assets like an illustration from your book, A+ content. If it's an ebook, they're using your book cover and A+ content if you have it, or just your ebook cover. So you have to know that you can upload or change your assets to get different videos. But I will tell you, not again, AI is a toddler with a pointy knife in the kitchen. So proceed with caution, but I will say that it's actually pretty cool. They create, take some time. It's free. It takes some time. It will create a little ad video for you, and I've seen them ranging from 5 seconds to 11 seconds. I think the actual like cutoff is 15, but I've never seen them longer than 11, and I've played with it quite a bit. They have taken I have a tutorial coming on this on the AI generation in ads. And maybe this weekend, it might be next week, but I do have that coming up because I did a full tutorial on it. And I have an author of historical fiction who has like a guy on a horse. And it took the book cover and made the horse, it like starts galloping and then it gallops off the book cover into like this like battle scene, which is pretty cool. So those are kind of fun. I would say if you're running ads, it's interesting to play around with. I do think it's a newer tool, and I have noticed personally that when new tools come out, if you were some of the first people to play with them and use them, it seems like you get a little boost because they're trying to get data from these programs. And so I'm hoping to see that. I've just got a couple of ads started with that, but it was very, very interesting and cool. Now, with that said, for one book, I generated something like, I don't know, 15 videos. Two were usable. One, pretty hilariously, one had the book cover, and then on the sides were book covers from a completely different author. Like, it had nothing to do with the book I was working on. I had one ad that it created, and it took the words from the book cover, but it like scrambled them to make nonsense. There was one where it like totally changed the scene. One where these are Civil War. It's Revolutionary War and Civil War, and one for the Civil War that I tried to use. It was very cool. They had there was a soldier on the front, and he kind of like stepped off the cover and went running like into battle, and then others started following him. However, this Civil War chap was followed by someone that looked like he was like World War II, like a modern like SEAL, and then it was just obviously didn't fit. So again, AI is like a toddler with a pointy knife in the kitchen, needs lots of direction. Proceed with caution and safety, but I thought it was pretty cool, and some of the images were pretty striking. There's a guy on a horse with a cape, and they had the cape like start flapping as he was like um, running. And so you can't edit it a ton. They say edit on it, but it's got very limited editing. If there is a text overlay, and you don't get to choose if it's text or overlay or not, like you just generate and you get what you get. It's like a what's that thing when you like put a quarter in and then you get like the random tattoo, and you don't know what it is. Um, that's kind of what it's like. So you can't really edit it. You can't give it much direction, but it's super interesting. It was very easy to use for Amazon ads, and it's free. So I'll let you guys know how that works long term on whether or not those ads actually perform better. I have heard people say that when they run video ads, they get, 10, 20 times more sales. Someone said 500 times more sales than they would have otherwise. And I don't know that that's true, but that's a lot more sales. So it's possible. I've not seen that kind of experience myself. I think some things do better with ads than others, but I am very curious to see how this goes. I will say that I've noticed with ads that use video, whether it be on Facebook or if it is on something like Amazon, I have noticed that it seems like you need a bigger budget per day to run those. They don't always spend more like long term, but I have noticed the budget per day is longer. And cost per click last time I did Amazon ads with video was higher. So it may only work for books that have that long tail on it. But again, I'll keep watching it long term and let you know. Oh, I should say that AI videos for ads are in beta right now, but every account I've been in has access to this. So maybe it's not in every account, but go check yours. You will be able to see it. And again, I have a tutorial coming where I share the screen and I show you everything so you'll know exactly where to check. But every account that I've checked in so far does have this access. I think I've only looked in accounts where the book was published through KDP. I haven't looked through like an author central account where the author is traditionally published to see if they have this access in their ad dashboard. Could probably do that today, but I've only been in accounts where the books were published through KDP so far. There are a lot of new, I mean, again, AI. Aren't we all kind of sick of AI and talking about it? And yet so many things are happening. We can't not talk about it. So many new things are coming out with AI, and some of the tools in AI and video in particular are getting kind of crazy. Jane put a link to where she did like a short little trailer for her video, or I'm sorry, a short little trailer for her book with VEO3. And so I saw that, Jane, by the way, it was cool. And I saw a publisher that I'm connected to, a publisher did a short little video. It was scary good. It was really good. And so things are progressing. And again, the ethics of the question, I'm not here to debate that. Everyone feels differently to different degrees, but we cannot deny that what's being done with AI and the tools that are coming out very quickly right now, especially in regards to video and imagery, are incredible, incredibly scary to some, incredibly useful for others, and just incredible period for others. But it's been really, really interesting to watch. So I think that's one of the things that I don't know, it's fun to watch and see what comes of it, I guess. So there's that. And let's see. There are some websites now offering connections to influencers for a fee. Do you think it's a good strategy for business books, or would I be better off investing the same budget on Amazon ads? That's a good question. It depends on if you get to choose the influencer. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of times, actually, if you go directly to an influencer, they will have fees for sponsorship. It's important, I think, to know if you are connecting to influencers, to know who the influencer is, make sure it's actually a good fit for your book. If you're paying them a fee, what are you getting for it? Are they just going to show your book one time? Is it a video trailer? Do they give it a review? Like, what's going on with that? And I think that really matters. If you are getting your book, if you're paying to get your book connected to an influencer, but they don't have an active following, or they don't actually talk about your your topic very often. Their audience is not going to be specific to that product, and they're probably not going to buy. In that case, I'd much rather see you do Facebook ads or something like that. So it depends. Blanket programs that just say we'll connect you to influencers. I think you're much better off going and looking for people who are talking about your topic, who might be a good fit, who might have the right audience, and going directly to them and asking if they review products or if they do any type of collaborations. And sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, send me that book, I'd love to just read it and review it. Sometimes they'll say, yes, I do collaborations, here's what I offer, and they have a fee structure. You will get more for your money, you'll know what you're getting, and your audience will be better. So that's what I would do. I don't love the programs that just connect to influencers. I don't think that the whole purpose and the way that influencers work well, the way that like TikTok and things, the reason why it's worked is because it has been genuine, it's been organic, and people are talking about products they actually use. So if I go to an influencer who, I don't know, maybe they talk about money and budgeting and my book, and they love Dave Ramsey. They follow the Dave Ramsey way, and that's how they budget and they do all the thing. And I have a book on money that is like, Dave does it wrong. This is how I do it. It's probably not going to be a natural, organic, or profitable fit for either of us. So I would prefer to see you go directly to the influencer and see if there's a connection or collaboration possibility. See. If a major publisher has put an unknown author's book in Barnes and Noble, what is the average time it remains in the store? And does it go into all the stores in the chain? Great question, Beth. So Barnes and Noble, no, it does not go in every single store. The way Barnes and Noble works is they've got given their managers a lot of leverage to put stores in or books in individual stores. So the individual store manager has some wiggle room to put the books in just that Barnes and Noble. With that said, there are bigger buying decisions. So there are regional decisions that are made where a regional manager will say, we're buying X amount of books and it's going to be spread through these stores. They do listen. I mean, there are different areas. And if you travel a lot and you go into bookstores, which I do, uh, it is incredible to notice that what's trending in YA in bookstores in New York City is completely different than what's trending in YA in bookstores in North Carolina. So there is sometimes where it's just not as good of a fit in certain markets or others. So there are store decisions, there are regional decisions, and then sometimes it's going into multiple regions. But there is not one blanket, you're in every single Barnes and Noble unless it's a huge publisher. And even then, I'm sure there are decisions that are made that don't work out that way. So there is more nuance to it as far as how long a book sits. So if a book is selling, then they're probably restocking. If a book is sitting and doesn't sell, many times they'll leave it on for 3 to 6 months is very, very common. Sometimes then it'll go to the bargain bin and see if they can sell it. And if it still can't sell, it returns. But the return limit, usually a book can be returned for up to 180 days, which is 6 months. So usually a book is pulled between that 4 and 6 month mark. So it can be returned and the publisher doesn't, or I'm sorry, the Barnes and Noble doesn't eat the cost of unsold books. So it just depends. Is it selling? Have we had past sales? Are there events going on? And how long it's been? But usually 4 and 6 months is that time where you will see returns. If you ever run into a company that's saying we will get you into every single Barnes and Noble, or we'll get you into Barnes and Nobles across the U.S., they can't do that. They can't they can pitch that. We work with authors to pitch that. So you can pitch and ask that you can go to regional sales and you can make a pitch and ask that they include it in their regional markets. You can go to individual stores and ask if they would do an event or carry a book. That you can do, but it's never guaranteed. I've had really big names nope, doesn't really work for our market, and you don't get in. So anyone guaranteeing or saying that they're getting you into every single Barnes and Noble is probably a scam. Check, double check. I know there are a lot of scams out there that look really legitimate, where it will even say it's from Barnes and Noble, saying, we want you to send us, or we want 10,000 copies of your book. It'll cost you X amount of dollars because we print them ourselves. And scammers just, I am convinced that if the people who run scams just put their time to positive things, like we would solve world hunger, homelessness, we would have peace on earth if all of these people who run scams and crime just put it to something good, because a lot of them are really brilliant, which is crazy to me. They're really smart and really brilliant. They put a lot of time into faking it, and they do it because it pays off, I guess, but I'd love to see their energy put somewhere else, wouldn't we all? So hopefully that answers your question. And speaking of scammers, it leads right to a question from Catherine. And the question is, I'm doing some personal research on scams and publishing. Is this legit? And what she was asking about, I'll drop it here. There is a link here to Writers Weekly, and it's writersweekly.com, and it's a full list of scam publishers that you should avoid at any cost. And Catherine's concern was, wow, this list looks really long, and it is really long. It's even alphabetized, which is really helpful. But it is absolutely it's long. And is it true? I did not look at every single company. I have to say that I did not look through every company. Some of them may be legitimate. I am not vouching for this list, but what I am saying is there are a lot of scammers on there, are out there. And when I was scanning through the list, I did see several companies that I recognize as scam companies, or um, vanity presses that really are more about earning money on authors' dreams rather than helping authors achieve their dreams. So there is plenty of that out there. Another place that you can look is Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors, has a watchdog list. You can double check things there. Writer Beware, always check that website. I think that Victoria over there is doing so much good in the writing community, simply by keeping people up to date on some of these scams and things like that. You can also check places like um, Authors Guild has some of these watchdogs lists. So I would say if you are looking at working with a company, search all of these. Now, what we have to be careful of, and again, much like AI, people have different opinions on different things. But what we have to be careful of is that there is a line between vanity press and hybrid publishing. And very, very often, people have very strong opinions, and they are right. They will say that anything other than a publisher paying you is a scam. I do not believe that. I preach very strongly that that is not true. However, there are caveats. There are vanity publishers. These are typically publishers who will take any book. They don't care as long as you're paying them. Many times they'll have a initial package where they'll charge you 10 grand to publish your book. And then after that, they'll charge you another 10 grand for marketing. Except for guess what? Your book looks like crap, and it's it's not edited, it doesn't have a great cover, it looks like, a kid put it together and put it up on KDP. It doesn't have distribution, or it's just up on Amazon. Their marketing is stuff that sounds big and flashy but isn't actually like doing anything or helping you sell books. And this is how we hear about authors who have spent, I'm not kidding, ten to $50,000 for a junk book, that a junk looking book. I won't say it's a junk book. It may be great on the inside, but we judge books by their covers, their formatting. Um, that doesn't go anywhere outside of Amazon, that has no sales, and they've spent so much money. I've heard horror stories of people dipping into their savings, their retirement, and so many things. Um, And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see these companies profiting on authors' dreams rather than helping authors achieve their dream or telling them, look, this is a really great product, or I think it's a great project. And, it may not be marketable though. I tell people this all the time. I have worked with authors who say, do you think this could sell big? And I'll say, I think it's a lovely story, a great project. I don't think it's currently marketable for whatever reason, or I think it needs more work here or there. And I try to be honest. And the reason is because I don't want to perpetuate the people who are just telling people, oh, this is great. It'll sell. It'll be a bestseller. You've got something here. And then these people spend so much money and then they have no retirement or, their dreams are tied up in this. And that is why I take more of the tough love approach of being honest, encouraging, I hope, but honest because I want more for you than to blow smoke and to not really see sales. That to me is a vanity press, someone that you're paying a lot of money, who takes anyone who does a crappy job and who keeps asking for money. Now, then there are hybrid presses. Hybrid publishers who are truly good hybrids. Many times, what they do is they do charge the author a certain amount to publish their book. Sometimes it comes with marketing, sometimes it doesn't. But usually, what it is, it's a lower amount, and the author and the publisher then share royalties, meaning that usually it's a 50-50 split. Instead of traditional publishing, where you might get 7 to 10%, you're getting 50% of royalties. You are putting money up front, but the hybrid press is putting in their skills, their expertise, sometimes their own money. They're matching it with you, and it's more of a partnership. These are harder to come by, I'll be honest, but I do know a number of really great hybrid publishers. I know of several hybrid publishers that have great distribution that are working with Simon and Schuster and big distribution, and they give authors who want to publish but don't want to start their own publishing company or do things themselves a shot. And I love that for them. They don't take every book. Sometimes they only take certain genres or different things. It is much more of a partnership. It's not an automatic yes. That to me is a true hybrid publisher, and sometimes it works out really well for people. There are also people who offer author services. I work with some authors in this capacity where I do not publish their books. New Shelves does not publish people's books, but we do consult with people and help them publish on their own platform. So they are the publisher, they own all royalties, they have the ISBN, but we consult with them to make sure that they're getting the best product available. We're helping make sure that they have a cover that fits the market, that their formatting is done, that they have the best distribution they can, whether they're doing offset print or print on demand. That is someone who you're paying for their time and expertise, and you're still carrying the cost of publishing. But you then own everything. You are running it like a business, and that is self-publishing with assistance. And I think that's legitimate, obviously, or else I wouldn't be a part of it. Then there are people who self-publish. And people who self-publish who are like, I'm going to learn it on my own. I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll hire a cover designer. Maybe I'll design my own cover. There's a range of people who are putting time, money, and skill into it. And some, unfortunately, who are writing drivel, who are then throwing it up without editing or cover design or anything. They're just throwing it up and crowding the marketplace. It doesn't sell because it doesn't look nice. It isn't great. And there, obviously that is unfortunate. And that's where self-publishing gets a bad name because there are enough people who aren't publishing well. They're not publishing professionally. That is why we have Free Advice Friday, because I hope to be a small part of helping authors publish well, publish professionally, get some of the tools or direction they need to do things well so that your book stands a chance in the marketplace, so that you can actually publish. And if you want to take it seriously, possibly have a career at it, that you have a chance at doing that. So there's a range. There's vanity, there's hybrid, and there's better hybrid than other. There are more professional hybrid than other. There's very basic. There's people are doing crazy amounts of things. There is good author services and consulting, and there are terrible author services and consulting who people just call themselves a professional and they're not very great at their job. There's a range. And then we have traditional publishing where you go to a publisher or to an agent, you're paid usually in advance, and then you get a percentage of sales. And that is usually a smaller percentage of sales, but your upfront costs are much lower, if not at all, meaning that you might pay for editing before your book goes in or something like that. But traditional publishing, where you're getting paid for your work, the publisher's doing their job to publish a book, and then the author still is expected to do some of their own marketing. Again, that's a sliding scale. Some authors get a lot of marketing, some don't. I've worked with publishers across, I mean, I've worked with some publishers who do amazing marketing, even though they're smaller publishers. And I have some publishers that do almost nothing. And they're bigger publishers than you would think. Some authors are front list and get a lot of time and attention, and some get barely any. So again, there's so many different ranges. And that's why I say there's no one size fits all. I know a lot of successful authors who do both, who have some traditional deals and they do some self-publishing or, different things like that. It just really depends. So it totally depends. There is a range. And there are, yes, to the heart of the question that we started with, there are more scammers out there than you would think. I wish it weren't so. Vet people, ask for references, ask for what they worked on, speak to them and ask them questions. And if your gut tells you no, go with that. Um, that we have a gut for a reason. That's what I believe anyway. So there you go. Let's see. I've seen many hybrid publishers that claim to be hybrid, but are in fact as expensive as vanity and accept any book as vanity publishers. Am I right in thinking that a true hybrid publisher would want to see a manuscript before accepting an unknown writer? You are correct. A hybrid that I would ever recommend or sign up with would want to see a manuscript and vet that manuscript before ever agreeing to take it on. They would have curated books. I'd be looking at the books they publish. Are they selling? Do they have reviews? Or do the authors seem happy with these people? These are the things I'd be looking at. What kind of marketing or distribution do they offer? Can you look at the sales pages of these books and go, okay, this looks pretty good? Or are you looking at it going, oh my, I don't think they proofread this. Those are just a few of the things I'd be looking at for a true hybrid publisher. Also, are they part of organizations like IBPA? IBPA has a full checklist of like what you should look for in a hybrid publisher. I think that list is great. It's free to the public. You do not have to be a member to get that list. So again, vet, trust, and all those things. Yes, I am currently working with Pam on her nonfiction book, and it is going beautifully. Actually, you should have a printed copy of it. So I'm excited to hear about that, Pam. All right. Let's see. I know there was no, that was the question. We had the scan publishing question. So questions somewhere else. No, I think that's it. I think that's it. All right. So if anyone has any other questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise in the book industry, we're again continuing to see a lot with AI and copyright. A lot, of course, going on with libraries and funding and all of those things. I don't talk about them or haven't talked about some of that stuff much recently just because it's so up and down. And I think we probably all know about it, and it's not very productive to just keep rehashing it. So I try not to do that. Same thing with AI. If I have something new to share or something new that's happening, I like to share it. But otherwise, no need to just keep rehashing all of those things over and over. All right. Well, I don't think I have any more questions. If you do, drop them in the chat. We'll answer them. Otherwise, we will be all set for today. Let's see. All right. So I think we're good. If you have any questions that you didn't get answered today, you can always email in info@newshelves.com. I will get to those and save them up for next week. So I will see you next week, same time, same place.